much every Tuesday without fail, we have TOTW, as it's now known, Tweet of the Week. And the man who provides it is Tim Earl, with us in the studio today. You've been a lifelong birder?
Yeah, more or less. Yes.
Yes, we'll take that.
I was apparently looking at sparrows from my pram, so...
Aww.
Yeah, you're a lifelong birder.
Instilled a passion.
But do you know the amazing thing about it is, I'm getting old, I'm getting on a bit, and it's still interesting. And people that come on my classes, I do little classes to introduce people to bird watching, and people that come on them say, "Oh, crikey, this is so difficult." And I say to them, "Well, if it was easy, I wouldn't have been doing it for the whole of my life." So,
and it's another one we're always learning, aren't you? You never know everything.
Yeah.
Never know everything. And during lockdown, of course, we had great fun because you were doing the ones from the window, literally.
That's right.
Asking people, go to your window, don't go outside or climb a tree, just go to your window, see what you can see.
But do you know we started a Facebook page called Manx Birds from My Window? 1,700 people have signed up to that now.
Oh, fantastic.
There'll be a lot of people listening now who are signed up to Manx Birds from My Window, and it's lovely to speak to you all for a change.
And you get a great spread of species. You imagine all the usual sort of sparrows and the tits and such like, but
we occasionally get unusual species, but that doesn't matter. The thing that matters is that people are connecting with the wildlife in their gardens, the things that they can see from the garden. And lockdown gave them that time and that opportunity just to think, oh gosh, there's more outside my window than I thought. And I don't care if it's a wren or whatever it is. If people are getting pleasure from it, that's good enough for me.
And I think that's one of the great, if there was anything good to come out of lockdown, it was the fact that people did connect more with their immediate environs, didn't they? And they suddenly started taking an appreciation, even if they just had a little back garden or something. God, it's not just a little bit of lawn or something. You can do something with it. And you can see things, whether it's growing herbs, whether it's doing a few veggies, whether it's trying to entice more birds in. And people really took this on board, didn't they? Yeah,
they did. And it was a contrast to the stress and the difficulties that we were experiencing certainly at the start of the pandemic.
And it also, I think, it also leads to you then caring for the nature around you and the wildlife around you, becoming more aware of them, doesn't it?
Well, of course, that's for people like me, that's the bottom line. The more people that care, the more the things that I enjoy about life will be protected. And right now it's important because we're coming up to an election and we've got 1,700 people who might just say to the people knocking on their doors, well, what are your feelings about the environment? And that awareness eventually has to ripple through to the political awareness, which in turn then leads to protection and caring on a national scale instead of an individual scale. So it's important.
And this sort of brings us on to the Red List. So this is something it's just been published quite recently, the Manx Red List, Birds of Conservation Concern in the Isle of Man. And this is a sort of survey of 330 odd species on the island.
Yep.
And a surprising number, so of 332 species on the island, all the 166 regular occurring species assessed, 48, that's 29%, placed on the Red List.
Yes. Now, we've got to put this into perspective. This Red List is a wake-up call. It's saying these species, either on the Isle of Man or nationally, or maybe even internationally, are giving conservation concern. Their numbers are dropping. But it's also, for us, an opportunity to rejoice in the Isle of Man, because let's look at curlew. We know that curlews are in decline here on the Isle of Man. The nesting species is going down. However, we do have a huge number coming in the wintertime. So we, as Manx people, are doing our bit to look after a bird of conservation concern elsewhere. So the fact that they're in decline is sad, but the fact that we've got the opportunity to look after them is great. So the Red List is a two-edged sword. It's on one hand it says we're not doing a good enough job for these 41 species. On the other hand, it says this is an opportunity for us to do our bit for other people as well as ourselves. So it is a shock to see some of the names on this list. You wouldn't think, years ago, you wouldn't have thought cuckoo could be endangered, or meadow pipit, the staple food of hen harriers. Meadow pipit, endangered. All sorts of things. So,
and then the one that I was thinking again, which I know has a mixed reception, is the herring gull.
Yeah.
Because the herring gull, again, you could say it's iconic with the Isle of Man. Not a species that's necessarily loved by everyone, because they can, they pinch your ice creams and poo in your car and all the rest of it, and can be quite thuggish sometimes. But their numbers are going down.
50% decline in 10 years. Huge decline in them. They were the first species protected in the Isle of Man. I want you to just think about the Langness Peninsula and that big tower, the herring tower. The girls would go up there looking for the herring fleet coming in. The herring fleet would fill Peel Harbour, Castletown, Derby Haven, chock-a-block with fishing boats. They'd land their catch and gut them. What happened to the guts? Oh. The herring gulls came and cleaned up. And to this day they clean up. They clean up the rubbish that we leave out. And now it's considered bad habits. But in the days when it was a fishing fleet, it was good habits. So they were protected. So, whoa, look at these birds cleaning up for us. But now we see that cleaning up the other way round, because they're having to rip open plastic bags to do it. And they're not particularly tidy cleaners.
I think people would be really shocked to hear that there is that massive decline, though, because, of course, in and around residential areas, you see a lot of them. So what has happened?
We can learn a lot from herring gulls because they teach us good manners. If, for instance, you go and disturb places where birds nest, they will either become extinct or they'll find somewhere else to nest. The herring gulls found somewhere else to nest. Where is it nice and safe? On our roofs. And then they become a nuisance. But what they're really saying is, hang on, boys, you've been disturbing our nest sites for years. We're going to come and disturb your nest sites now. So, for me, the herring gull is a great example of what's happening and how we can learn from it, how we can actually rejoice in it. Lots of people get a lot of pleasure from herring gulls. People on Manx Birds from my window are actually feeding herring gulls, and their neighbours are coming out and saying, "Oh, you shouldn't feed those." Of course you should.
It's always a controversial one. Always a controversial one. One of your favourites is there as well, the puffin.
Oh, I know. I love the puffin. I can't believe that's in decline. And it leads me to ask the question then, Tim, with these birds that are in decline, these beautiful birds like the puffins, there's a whole number of them on there that, we regularly feature here on the show. What can we do about it?
First and foremost, we've got to be aware of it. So read the Red List. Get hold of a copy from Manx BirdLife. This is the result of a huge amount of work done, mostly by Chris Sharp and Neil Morris. That they put in a huge amount of work into this. Birdwatchers have been pressing DEFRA for years to come out with this list, and they haven't been able to do it. Chris and Neil have produced it. So first of all, get hold of the list and be aware. You see oystercatcher and you think,
can't believe
oystercatcher? Every time I go on the beach, the things are squawking around.
Yeah.
But they're in decline. So first of all, be aware. If there are species you can help in any way by putting out food, maybe providing nest sites in your gardens by planting the right sorts of trees, then do that. I have to say, it eventually comes down to politics, though. We cannot, as individuals, do a great deal to look after these species, but as a nation, we can. And to do that, we have to encourage our politicians and those people that are standing for Tynwald to think about this red list, think about what we can do. It doesn't take a lot of money, and the rewards can be huge. If we could encourage ecotourism to come to the Isle of Man, we could spread out the seasons. It doesn't have to all be focused on those intense few weeks of motorcycle racing. We can spread out the seasons. We can get people here in the spring and the autumn just for the joy of being out and about, and it doesn't take a lot of money to do that. So be aware of what's going on. Get hold of this fantastic list from Manx BirdLife.
And so, yeah, find out more is the main thing. We're going to be highlighting it in Tweet of the Week. So
Yep.
the next series or so of Tweet of the Week is going to be highlighting some of these birds that are on the red list. And as we said, some of the names aren't going to be unusual ones, sadly. So,
There are people going to be going out looking for these birds because they're on the list. If you see them, you think, "Oh, that's a red list bird. That's really good." Go down to Derby Haven on a high tide during the winter time and just look at the breakwater there. 300 curlews, all of them probably from elsewhere that we're looking after. I know there are 3 ladies that were in the Cafe 26 yesterday, and they were shocked to find out that curlew was on the list, and delighted that they could go out and see them. So it's this double-edged sword. Get hold of the list, be aware, and take it from there.
Tim, thanks very much indeed, as ever, for coming in. We could fill the whole programme talking about this.
Yeah,
A very quick question has
absolutely.
come in before you go. David says, recently it's been shown that feeding garden birds could upset the balance, so could it not be best to leave it to nature?
It could upset the balance, but building houses could upset the balance. It's compensating, it's mitigation for what we as a species are doing to the environment. People should feed their garden birds if that's what they want to do. I can't see how it can upset the balance. It might provide more food for sparrowhawks that go whizzing through. But,
Yes, I've seen that.
Is there somewhere that we can go that you would advise us to go to get information about how we do feed them properly and how we do actually look after them properly?
Yeah, there are plenty of sites on Mr. Google will refer you to all sorts of sites. The RSPB are very, very good on advice like that. Manx BirdLife will help as well. Manx Ornithological Society. If you're really interested and you can put up with me for 2 hours a week, then come on one of my courses. There are all sorts of ways of learning more.